Good morning, New Hampshire homeschoolers. My name is Amy Farkas, and I'm the webmaster and Keene area representative for the New Hampshire Homeschooling Coalition. I've been homeschooling for 9 years. My children are ages 9, 11, and 14. And we're here at Manahan Park in Franklin Pierce Lake in Hillsborough with Melissa Drury from Weare, New Hampshire. And we plan to kayak afterwards if the rain's going to hold out today. It's nice and sunny. So Melissa's been a homeschooling parent for 18 years, and she's one of the founders and current president of Weare Home Educators Co-op, which averages about 25 families from the surrounding area and has been operating for 10 years. For today's live video, we're focusing on how to start a co-op. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments area below as we're talking, and we'll try to answer them at the end of our conversation. So starting a co-op is a timely subject right now, given the recent increased concern of many churches that are facing about non-501c3s entities using church facilities. Many churches are no longer allowing their space to be rented for for-profit groups, from karate classes to homeschool programs like Classical Conversations. But if these groups were to set up their organizations as 501c3s, they would be able to use the church facilities, a place that many homeschoolers choose to set up and meet. But let's backtrack a bit. So Melissa, if you could please tell the New Hampshire Homeschooling Coalition members about the Weare Home Educators group. What activities are there besides co-op, and when does the Weare Home Educators Co-op take place, and about how many students go to the co-op and what kinds of classes are offered?
All right, that's a loaded question. All right, so running a co-op is a big task. It takes a lot of resources, people, mostly people, really.
Yeah.
But we still try to. Now, a lot of co-ops are only a co-op, but we still try to add field trips and other activities in with that co-op. Mm-hmm. That does provide even more challenges, and it takes a lot of, once again, more people resources.
Definitely.
Our co-op meets twice a month. We meet every other Wednesday throughout the year. We take a break for Christmas. The focus of our co-op is science labs. We do not teach science to the children, but the children are expected to do all their learning at home and then come together prepared to do the science labs when we come together. So.
Mm-hmm. How did you come to start the co-op?
So a little history. When I moved here back in 2004, the first thing I did was look for a homeschool group. I think most everybody does.
Right.
And I immediately found Weare Home Educators in the town I lived in and started going to the support group. It was only a support group at that time. And they met once a month. So slowly I started meeting other homeschool families, and then in 2005 I had met some folks that wanted to start a play group. So we started that play group separate from Weare Home Educators, and we met once a week just to play. But it was a good time for moms to fellowship and have somebody to talk to besides small children.
Yeah.
And we played once a week, but that quickly grew. People heard about it and wanted to join, and once we grew larger, we couldn't meet in people's homes anymore. We had to meet at parks or find another place to meet. Mm-hmm. So we found a church. We started meeting at a church, but then we even outgrew that place too, very quickly. About this time too, the person who ran was the webmaster for Weare Home Educators. Her child was older and she was ready to hand it over, so I gladly accepted that. And then the mom that ran the Weare Home Educator support group also was ready to set it aside and pursue other things, and so I took that too. So slowly we started accumulating these tasks and the name recognition, so we decided, along with my friend Joy, who helped start the co-op, we merged the two groups together. We took our play group and merged it with Weare Home Educators and kept the name Weare Home Educators, which was already well known in the homeschool community. Mm-hmm. So that's our background. And as we kept growing and growing, we decided to add to our play group. We started doing field trips, we started adding classes, And that takes us to the point where we started a co-op.
Okay.
So then, how did it start? Well, because our co-op is science lab focused, it got its start when my oldest was taking chemistry. The other moms were like, "You're going to do the labs? Oh, can my son join yours?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure, no problem." So I had about 8 kids join us for chemistry labs that year. But I still had 3 younger children, and I didn't have anything for them to do while I was teaching chemistry. So the next year, when those kids wanted to take physics as well, I decided we really needed to do something so that my other kids had something to do as well.
Yeah.
So we started offering science classes for younger kids that year, and that was really the launch of our co-op.
And science is your thing, so this is your strong point. That's why
Science.
everyone's excited for you to do
Yeah.
the labs with their kids. Yeah.
Science is my strong.
So for me, I just stepped into the co-op. You already had it all organized. But what if someone is in an area and there isn't a co-op for them to just step into? How would you advise someone to start a group or a co-op if they're struggling to find one in their own area?
Well, there are a ton of groups out there, and I understand the plight because I hear it year after year. I see people really wanting to get into our co-op, and all of the groups fill up really fast.
Yeah.
And so I understand the plight of moms going, "I just want to get involved in something." So it's tough, but it really is not hard to start your own group. It takes time, a lot of time.
Right.
I mean, it took us from the time we started that play group, it took us about 5 years till we were at the point of starting a co-op. My advice is to get out there and meet people. Go to the library, post on the library's Facebook. I mean, there's so many ways today through social media to connect with other moms,
Right.
which we didn't have back then. Way back then. We only had the libraries, and we could post things there, and the librarians were great about, letting us know if somebody came in that was looking for information. So start a group. Find people that you want to hang out with that homeschool and start getting together. Commit to meeting together once or twice a month or 4 times a month, however that works out. Especially if your kids are younger, get together. Because ours started as a play group, just meeting together to play.
Right. So sometimes homeschoolers can be elusive and they're hard to
They
find.
can. They
So
can.
there are places like New Hampshire Homeschooling.org. There's a link to support groups in the area. I see a question there. Norma, we'll get to your question towards the end. So you can go online to the support page, support groups, and you can find people that meet in your area.
Yep.
You can also join the New Hampshire Homeschooling Coalition private group, and you can post there and find people, maybe just post and ask if there's anybody in your area that would like to meet. So at what point does a casual group of homeschoolers meeting up at a church become in need of setting up a 501c3?
So I pondered this question a little bit. For me, when we started even just doing field trips, we quickly realized that we needed to get payment up front to be able to pay for field trips, because homeschoolers sometimes can just not show up. And, so that was frustrating, because then you would get stuck with, you wouldn't have the money to pay for their field trip. So we realized quickly that we needed to have upfront payment, so we needed a means of handling all this money. So my friend and I set up an account at the bank where we would just put all that stuff, but it was all in my name, and I said, I don't like this. So the biggest reason we set up a 501c3 was that it took me out of the financial picture completely. It's not in my name at all. It's its own entity. And of course, just if we did any other way, we could just set it up as a corporation in New Hampshire, but if we did it that way, then you would have to pay taxes still on any income that came in. So 501c3 was the best option for that. That was the biggest reason. And since then, back in the day, we had a place to meet. It wasn't required that we were a 501c3 where we were at, but when we lost that place, we would have been homeless, a homeless group, without being a 501c3. As a 501c3, you're required to carry liability insurance, and that right there will get you in just about any place. If you don't have liability insurance, a lot of churches and any facilities really don't want you in their facility on a regular basis.
Right, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Can you explain the process you experienced in setting up a 501c3?
501c3. So it is a lengthy process. You have to do a lot of research, I spent a whole summer just researching how to do this. But there are some great resources out there today, and I used this resource when I was doing it. I'm sure we can post it later,
Right.
the link to it. But Carol Topp she calls herself the Homeschool CPA, and she has a step-by-step process on her website that walks you through each step. And I looked at it yesterday, and it's even more delineated today than it was 5 years ago when we did it.
Yes.
Very great resource. And Homeschool Legal Defense also is a great resource. If you're a member of Homeschool Legal Defense, they might give you free legal aid or counsel as well. They have done that with some groups that I know of that have recently become 501c3. So those are the big resources right there to check into. But just be aware of, there's a financial commitment to becoming a 501c3.
Okay.
Every form that you file has a cost. And so you need to make sure you have probably between $700 and $1,000 set aside
Wow, okay.
to pay for the cost. The cost has decreased to file the 1023 easy form.
Okay.
It was about twice that when I filed.
Yeah.
But
So that is the decreased cost between
that is a
700 and
decrease.
1,000. So many families together could offset that,
yes,
but still.
you just need to be prepared because it's not free. You have to file. You have to get a tax identification number. There's a fee for that. You have to file in New Hampshire. You have to file with the Secretary of State. We actually have to create your name.
Okay.
Get your name first, and there's a fee for that. There's every step along the way. There's a fee.
Okay.
So you have to plan ahead. Now in New Hampshire as well, if you're going to form a 501c3, the biggest challenge that I have seen, not just with homeschool groups, just in general with 501c3s, is you have to have 5 unrelated board members.
Okay.
And that may seem like a small number, but like when you're only talking 25 families in your group, that's a fifth of your group has got to be on the board.
Yes.
And that can be a challenge because moms don't want to add on one more responsibility.
They don't?
Not usually. If they're teaching their kids at home and
Right.
teaching at your co-op or helping, adding one more thing to be in the leadership of that, it can
Yeah.
add too much sometimes. So those are things that you have to consider though.
Okay. Where do you find that short form for the 501c3?
So all your forms are online, and Carol Topp is, once again, excellent. She's got links to all the forms that you need.
Okay. We'll post
but-
those later.
Yep, irs.gov is where you're going to find the forms,
Okay.
or on the New Hampshire DOJ site or the New Hampshire Secretary of State site too.
Okay. So as a seasoned co-op director, what advice would you give about running the co-op? How is the co-op, your co-op, set up leadership-wise? And what guidelines have you put in place to make things run smoother? And then what platforms do you use to communicate with your members, like social media or what have you?
All right, so, pardon me, Mr. Spider. So, the first thing is to have a purpose and a goal. Like I said before, our purpose is to do science labs, and that has worked very well for us. There are other co-ops that focus on history, others that focus on music. So there are a lot of different co-ops out there, but you need to have a purpose, and you need to stick by that purpose. I was really fortunate in the beginning. The first board of directors was very committed, and they were all seasoned homeschoolers. So we were able to create a lot of our policy that really, I mean, I don't really have to worry about the policy today because we were able to set it firmly back then. And that was because we had already had about 5 years experience dealing with people, with outside groups, with inside people, with functions. So we kind of had an idea of how we should do it.
Right.
But a goal. Got to have a goal, got to have a purpose. And you have to have those anyway to become a 501c3.
Okay. So that'll help you put it in place.
That's right. And another thing about 501c3 is do not call yourself an educational group when you're filing in the state of New Hampshire. Because if you do, then you'll fall underneath the Department of Education. So for us, our purpose is not education, it is to support parents.
Okay.
We offer classes not for the kids so much, but to be a help to the parents.
That's a really important detail.
It is. So little things like that, you'll find out along the way. And we've made some errors as we went along through
So
the
you found that out
process.
through the experience of starting to go down that road.
And we've had to, you know, every time you make a change to anything, you have to pay money. So we've learned.
Yeah.
And
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Try to get it all set in stone before you file. But anyway, back to our question, running a co-op. It's okay to make changes as you go. And a big thing, especially maybe just in New Hampshire, maybe everywhere, people come and people go. And don't be offended. I recognize that our group is not the perfect fit for every family. And so people may try it out and they may find it just doesn't work. And that's okay with me because you don't want miserable people hanging around you.
Right. Well, schedules change and kids'
Exactly.
educational needs change.
Yes,
And people come and go from homeschooling too.
they do.
Yeah.
So don't take it personally when people come and go. Just understand that that happens. Leadership-wise, like I said, you've got to have 5 board members. Choose people that you trust in the beginning, especially that are on board with the same ideas and
I don't know if everybody else can see that.
same plan. just be sure that you are out there with, and you know the people that you're setting up with.
Okay.
If you
You know that they're committed in different other areas of their lives. Okay.
that's important. I mean, as time goes on, maybe less so, but in the beginning, you really got to have people that are committed to getting this going or it won't happen.
Otherwise, it becomes the Melissa Drury show.
Exactly. And I don't want it to be that. Let's hear anything. 5 directors is important.
Guidelines to make things run smoother.
So we do have guidelines. Our policies are all on our website.
Okay.
They are kind of hidden, but
We'll
they're
find them.
there if you can search around well enough. But if you want a copy of them, I'm happy to send out a copy of our policies as well. They are specific to our group, so you would have to tweak them. And honestly, we looked at other people's policies when we made ours because, you know, kind of got a feel for what we needed to include. And
Why reinvent the wheel?
yes.
Okay.
And we use Facebook.
Okay.
Mostly we use Facebook, but our website, actually, we have a website. That could be a challenge if you don't have any technical people in your group. Fortunately, I'm a technical person, so I've been running that, but I've got to find somebody technical in the future when I'm not there
Right.
to keep it going.
So you do like sign-ups there and collect payment for things there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our sign-ups, all of our information is on our website. We do use email for those that are not on Facebook, but we also have a private Facebook group and we have a public Facebook page where we post information. We're trying to get information out and make it available.
Okay. So let's just, there's a question here.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there we are. Okay. Phew. So Norma asks, what are we in? We're in the Weare Home Educators Co-op. And she said when we first moved to New Hampshire, we did not get any responses for anyone. Yeah, sometimes homeschoolers can be elusive, so I encourage you to keep trying. Go to just the libraries during the day. Homeschoolers will hang out there during the day when everybody else is in school. And local churches have a lot of homeschoolers there, but if you're not a church-going person, I think that you could you could go to the library, and you could go to the parks. You could also go online to NewHampshireHomeschooling.org and find the groups that meet in your area, search them out, be willing to travel a little further. Like I live in Keene, but I'm traveling all the way to Weare and Where? I say it wrong. Weare and Goffstown to meet people to add to our lives as homeschoolers.
Yeah, librarians. Don't just go to the library, but talk to librarians because they know the homeschoolers and they can put you in touch with people. I know our library is very small, but they know who I am, and if somebody comes along, they're gonna let me know.
Yes.
And don't be discouraged. Talking about the people, the leadership thing, sometimes we have our leadership group just right on, and we're right on the ball, and we've got everything all the responsibilities evenly distributed amongst us, so nobody's carrying up the burden. But then there are times when not everybody's pulling their weight, and I know there are times when I've had to do everything, and it's hard to respond to all the inquiries and homeschool my family and do everything else that we do as a family.
Right.
And it does get a little frustrating, but I try not to let things go too long. So just keep trying, keep bugging people. If you just keep bugging people, eventually they're gonna respond.
Yeah. So I hope this is helpful for everybody out there. I will post the various websites that we referred to in our conversation. I'll post those in the comments below. And if you have any questions, if you watch this later on, if you have any questions, we'll keep an eye on it, and either I'll answer it or I'll tag it to you and get you to answer it if it's specific to Weare. Let's see. So we're going to go off kayaking for a little bit, but if you have questions right away, we'll get back to them when we're done kayaking. So next month in July, Steph Marsh is going to cover homeschooling through high school on a Facebook Live session. So stay tuned on New Hampshire Homeschooling Coalition's Facebook page or group and website for notification on when that will be exactly in July. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.